Hi, everybody. Welcome to Metal Gear Central. My name is Mike Taylor, and with us today we have a very special guest. This is David Hayter. He is the writer of Watchmen and the first two X-Men movies, and of course, he is the voice of Solid Snake and Big Boss from the first four Metal Gear Solid titles. With me is my co-host, John Walker.
Hey, you can't see me. My camera died just now, but we're gonna make it work.
That's okay. Your picture is very compelling.
Thank you.
I would also like to go ahead and give some credit to my tech guy who is running the stream for us. His name is Miles. Thank you, Miles. All right, let's go ahead and get down to it. Back in September, of course. Back in September, of course, the Phantom Pain released. Of course, during the game's development, you were questioned, I know, relentlessly about the game. Were you in the game? Did you have any involvement with the game? Now that the game is out, people know that you're not in the game at all. Are you being questioned more or less about it?
No, I think, thankfully the avalanche of questions has subsided as people realize that I was not actually in the game, and that I wasn't trolling people, or it wasn't some Metal Gear style ruse. So no, that's eased off somewhat. Although I still have a ton of people telling me how much they appreciate me, and that's pretty gratifying.
Yes, absolutely. It was, the game came out, and it was still. Me personally, I believe that you were fooling us.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that you, in some way, were in the game. Until I, finally played the game, and it wasn't until the very end of the game I was like, man, he's really not in this game.
I was really not in it. No,
he's like,
I really wasn't. And people kept saying, "You're lying. You're making a joke, or you're doing that." And I'm like, well, no, I think if I was in it, they would have had to, record me. And
we thought you were part of the Kojima ruse, as he normally does. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've got the Phantom Pain question out of the way, I kind of wanted to get that out and, maybe close a chapter there. People, I know it's got to get old hearing about it, and so I'm hoping that when people see this, they won't ask you about it anymore. At least that's the plan.
Well, that's fine. Look, as long as they're still asking me about something, that's the key.
All right, you want to throw it over to...
What's that?
Do you want me to take the next one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So getting away from the Phantom Pain, finally, we want to start off with what projects are you currently involved in, or what are you hopefully working on soon? What do you want to be involved in? Just kind of what's going on with David Hayter right now.
This year has been pretty amazing. I'm working on a ton of things. I was just given like 5 or 6 acting jobs this year, some of which I can talk about and some of which I can't. I recorded a video game called Deponia, which I guess is out and playable now. I recorded another video game which is not out until the end of the year that I can't talk about. A couple of these Ford commercials, which were basically put there by... I was hired by Snake fans that worked for Ford advertising, and they just wanted me to come in so they could talk to me.
Good stuff.
And then I'm writing a movie at DreamWorks Animation and developing a TV show over there as well. And
Can you tell us anything about that?
No, unfortunately, I can't. It's still in progress, but nice to be working with my friends at DreamWorks, and then I'm developing another TV show for Canadian television right now that I would oversee. So lots and lots of work, and it's very, very cool. But it's also something I can't tell you what it is yet.
Okay, well, you'll have to keep us updated.
I will.
You want to take the next one, Mike?
Yeah, while we're still on the topic of video games and such, I actually haven't played it in a while. I was actually talking to my tech guy about it today. Marvel Heroes.
Oh, yes.
You are the Winter Soldier.
I am, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. I actually recorded another character for them, but I'm not sure if he's out yet. So So
Can you
keep
give
an
us
eye
a-
out for me.
Okay. No hints or nothing?
Well, if I told you any hints, you'd know who it was. So it's
Fair
a pretty,
enough.
a pretty badass character with a
All
very
right.
different voice. But yeah, I recorded the Winter Soldier, and that was pretty awesome.
How did you get to do that? Because I saw the Captain America film, The Winter Soldier, and I loved it. And then it was like, I don't know how much longer later I saw that The Winter Soldier was in the game. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw you did it, and it surprised me. So so I figured if I ever got to speak to you again, I had to ask you about it.
You know, I think they just called me and asked me to do it. You know, the nice thing about having been Snake is a lot of voice directors and casting people grew up playing the games, and so I now I get called and people are like, hey, come out and do some voices for us, and I'm like, okay, great. And so yeah, that one I don't think I auditioned for it or anything. They just called me in, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, thrown over to me.
But then I watched the whole movie, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, to get an idea what his voice sounded like, and he like had 3 words in the whole movie. So
Yeah.
it wasn't. My research was sort of wasted.
That's Okay. Speaking of comic book films and the sort, as a comic book film screenwriter, since everyone's always got some kind of very different opinion about the state of comic book movies, as a screenwriter, what is your take on all the cinematic universes and just the general state of comic book movies as of 2016?
Well, you know, I'm very grateful to have been a part of this explosion of comic book movies, and I'm grateful for the fact that, you know, studios, particularly my friend Kevin Feige over at Marvel, you know, these movies are being made by people who really understand the comic books and are really trying to grasp what made them so popular in book form and translate that to the movies. That said, I think we're getting to a point now where we've seen the classic superhero tale done many, many times, and I think the movies need to diversify in the same way that the comics diversified. So watching my friend Bryan Singer's Days of Future Past, for example, I was like, that's a great take on the X-Men and based on one
Absolutely.
of my favorite comic book stories. And I haven't seen it yet, but like Deadpool, for example, everybody's telling me, you know, oh, it's so different, and I'm like, well, not if you read comic books, but it's nice that they're embracing R-rated, you know, comic books. You know, Batman versus Superman coming out R-rated. I think that's very cool. So, you know, I think it's good that they're branching out and trying to find some diversity of stories that are as rich as the comic book material.
Right. That's actually my next question. Is there's this new trend in Hollywood developing sort of R-rated comic book movies. Like, obviously, Deadpool has been doing incredible. We have the Batman vs. Superman getting the R-rated cut. There's been rumors of a R-rated Fantastic Four reboot.
Wow.
So, again, I remember, I believe once you were talking about how you were really pushing for violence with Wolverine at one point, and that's something you struggle with. So, what is your take on Hollywood being a little more acceptive of the R rating?
I think it's great. I mean, I've been working on these movies for 16, 17 years, and it gets a little tiresome to be told again and again, oh, it has to be PG-13. I mean, particularly when you've got a character like Wolverine who is built to stab people, you know? It's like, I was like, he's the 9-inch claws are... That's just who he is. I mean, you know, we have to take advantage of that, and you know, and we found ways to do that in X-Men 2 and in X-Men, and that's fine. But I think, you know, there was a lot of pushback on Watchmen when I was working on Watchmen being R-rated, and it was kind of like, well, how do you do Watchmen if it's not R-rated? And
Yeah.
you know, fortunately, Zack Snyder had the leverage to do it that way. And so, yeah, I think it's very good that these things are loosening up. I mean, you know, comic books used to be a way for a kid who was 15 who couldn't go to R-rated movies to see some really badass stories and some stories with some serious edge to them and things where, you know, you knew your parents weren't good. So there's a cat licking my hair. You know, stories where you knew your parents wouldn't read past the first page and you got to see all this violence and sex, and I think it's pretty awesome. You know.
So, yeah, that's a good plan. And, yeah, I guess that does it for that one. You want to go ahead and take the next one, Mike?
While we're on the subject of R-rated and violence and unrated or however, okay. After our first conversation with you, I actually went out and I bought Wolves and Devil's Mile. Yeah, I even tweeted to you about both of them. I spoke with Joseph O'Brien and the cast about Devil's Mile. You directed one and starred in the other. Harley, which do you prefer?
Sorry, your dog here's my dog.
Yeah, which do you prefer now that you've done both? Do you prefer to direct or act?
Yeah, Sarah, can you just take that gray dog and lock her in the back or something? Up there. So, what do I prefer? Well, acting is really, really fun. It's just an immensely fun job, and particularly playing that character in Devil's Mile, Toby, was just a full-on psychopath.
He was intense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I rarely get to swear on film, and perhaps I did it too much, but I was very excited about that, and I was very excited to kill so many people with my tire iron. That's not something you get to do every day. So that's really badass. But the job of directing is just a joy. I mean, it's infinitely harder, and and it taxes you on so many different levels. But it's just this amazing adventure. It's like going to war. And when we did Wolves, Wolves was almost entirely shot outside on location, and almost entirely at night. So I did 53 straight nights in a row where, I would get up at 6 o'clock at night and then work till dawn. And then they'd bring me home. The driver would bring me home, and I'd be having my beer at 8 o'clock in the morning, post-shift beer, and watching people eating breakfast. And I'm like, what is the world like for the daylight people? I don't know. It was very cool. So it's sort of like entering another world and having this army at your command. It was really an amazing experience. So I'd like to do it again if you have another $15 million you'd like to give me.
If I come across it, I'll hand it over to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So, and now you mentioned beating people down with a tire iron. You actually did this to Amanda Joy's character in Devil's Mile.
Literally, yeah.
While filming Devil's Mile, and of course I pay close attention to what you do, I noticed that you used the snake voice at least a couple of times in the film.
Well, it's my voice. I mean, the older I get, the more I start to sound like Snake. Just so
it was just really cool because every time I heard it, I was like, "There's Snake."
Yeah. Well, you'll always, whenever I'm, if I'm fighting or yelling at somebody, it's always going to creep through, and right. But it certainly wasn't intentional. It's just
okay, because I was going to ask if it was, because there were some points that it really felt like you were doing it. Like one line in particular when you were arguing with Amanda Joy's character, and I'm going to, for people watching, I'm going to say the F word, but you said, "Fucking keep it up," and you see what happens. And when you said, you said, "and you see what happens," I was like, "Oh my God, that's Snake talking to her." So
yeah, well, Snake is the firmer side of my personality. I mean, that's just there all the time. And so, if we were in a street fight and I was threatening you, you'd probably hear Snake.
Okay. I don't know how I want to just run. Like, he's throwing Snake at me. I'm out.
Oh, all right. I'll pick up from here.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. This is a little, I guess, controversial. This is it regards Konami. Obviously, I don't know if you're even tied to them still at this point, but I just kind of wanted to get, what they've been up to for the past half year, right? With the
not really. I mean, I hear a lot about pachinko, and that they're focusing on that. But beyond that, what? No, what?
Well, it's essentially Metal Gear Solid 5 was more or less released unfinished. Hideo Kojima reportedly was fired, and Metal Gear is being rebooted. generally just kind of seems like Konami's kind of lost they've lost their touch with their fans. They've lost touch with good business. I just kind of wanted to. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it since you haven't been involved with them in so long, but.
I mean, no. I mean, I don't know what they're up to. Obviously, I'd heard about their split with Kojima, and I mean, who knows why a corporation splits with an artist like that? I mean, there can be a million different reasons, but they don't really keep me in the loop about those things. And typically, whenever, even when I am working on Metal Gear, I get a call a couple weeks before they're supposed to start recording, and they say, "Okay, we want you to do Metal Gear," and I say, "Okay, great," and so I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of inside information. I mean, I can tell you, being somebody who's in the business, that they're unlikely to leave a valuable title like Metal Gear just lying there, not making any money for them.
Well, it's like what made the Metal Gear title valuable was Hideo Kojima. So it's
well, I mean, he's a brilliant guy and he's a visionary, but it's very much like Star Wars now. The title is so valuable that obviously they hope that it can go on without its George Lucas, and maybe it can, maybe it can't. I don't know. It depends on the hands they put it into. If they get some up and coming brilliant game maker, then maybe they'll do something amazing. I mean, that's the problem with Metal Gear. It's very much Kojima's voice, and he also, quite brilliantly upped the ante technology-wise and gameplay-wise each game. So you kind of have to do that as well as this crazy, hyper interconnected saga to satisfy the fans. And so can they do that successfully? It's possible, but it depends on who they get to handle it. And unfortunately, I'm speculating as much as anybody else.
Okay. Then going off of Konami and Kojima, Kojima actually opened a new Kojima Productions in December. We don't know exactly what they're up to yet, but we got high hopes. We just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Kojima getting back in action.
I mean, he obviously is. Yeah, there you go. Sounds like a game for Sony, and he signed a deal exclusively with Sony. So
okay, nobody tells me anything. I think it's great. He's a brilliant guy, and we share a lot of the same fans. So I hope he does things that make them happy, and I wish him well. That's beyond that. I don't really know too much stuff. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's fair. We just get inside information where we can. I'll go and
come across.
I'll
go ahead and throw it over to you, Mike.
Okay. Going back to Metal Gear, old Metal Gear games. Wow, my voice cracked. If you didn't land the role of Snake, of Solid Snake, is there any other character in the Metal Gear universe you could have seen yourself playing instead? Other than Big Boss, of course.
Well, I don't know. Not really. I mean, I was lucky enough to land right in the middle of it, and so that's always been my perspective. I never dreamed of
any other character in the Metal Gear
playing
universe
Colonel Campbell or Vulcan Raven or anything like that. I mean, I suppose I could play. I mean, before Snake, really, I always got cast as like young heroes, so maybe I could have been Raiden, but I wouldn't want to take money out of Quentin Flynn's pocket. So no, I think for Metal Gear, I was pretty happy where I landed, and can't do too much better than that.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, this is a little obscure. A few years ago, you recorded I don't know how long ago you did it, the Metal Gear Solid digital graphic novels.
Yes.
Now, these are, you generally don't hear about them. In fact, I believe when we asked Christopher Randolph, he didn't remember recording them.
Yeah, he probably forgot.
So, I just kind of wanted to know, like, what is the whole backstory of the digital graphic novels coming together and reuniting the cast, and kind of what's your take on the graphic novels, because they altered the storyline somewhat in the adaptation of Metal Gear Solid 2. I don't know if you remember this. Solid Snake quotes Han Solo.
Oh, I don't remember that. What did he say?
He tells it was riding, great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. I see. It had some. I don't know if that was an intentional Star Wars reference, but it was obscure, and I just kind of wanted to know what the backstory to these were.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not allowed to rewrite the script, so I
right.
You know, if it says that in there, I just do it. And you know, the thing about Kojima is he's such a movie fan that, you know, you'll see a lot of things that slip in from other movies, and that's kind of what's fun about it. I mean, I remember recording them. I think we did it. I want to say we did it while we were recording Metal Gear 4, possibly 3. But they just, you know, it wasn't anything remarkable. They brought in the scripts, and we were already in the booth, and so we just started recording them. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any more interesting stories.
Did Kojima wrote the scripts for the novels?
I don't know. I don't. I know. I could say everybody's like, well, you know, how did this happen, and where did this line come from? And the answer is I don't know. I got it in the script, and I just read it. So
that's fine.
I can't tell you what it means. I don't know how it got there. But I think, yeah, I don't know if he wrote the scripts or not. But I'm sure he oversaw it. I mean, he was pretty strict about his oversight on the Metal Gear universe.
Okay. Okay, just one more very obscure Metal Gear question. Mm-hmm. This one. In Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, I've read debates about this online. When you recorded the torture scene in this game, Peace
Walker. Right?
Yes, in Peace Walker. The sound of Snake getting electrocuted, it sounds just like you took your finger to your lip. And
No, I could show you exactly how I did it. So I think I was supposed to be. It originally came from Metal Gear 3, where there were electrified fences. Right. So I basically grabbed the fence, and so what I did was I take my fist like this, and then I go. So,
I love it. I love it.
I'm not meaning to insult you. Peace Walker is still my favorite, and I enjoy your work very much in there. I just wanted to see if I could get some confirmation on that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't this. It was. Because I wanted to feel like the amps were like flowing through my body and right. You know, making it echo like that. But
okay, I'll take that.
That's how it came together.
That's good. Right. I like that. Okay, let's see. All right. Other than Snake, what is another favorite video game roles for you?
Well, I would love to play Batman. I actually just did a callback for Batman in a game, so I'm hoping that I'll get that, but we'll see.
Can I?
So thanks a lot.
Ruin that opportunity. Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So there's that. What other video game character? I don't know. I mean, you know, like I say, acting is just one of the best jobs in the world, and I kind of take what comes my way. And some of them, like Batman, I'll chase down and try to get. But it's really just a matter of the luck of the draw. Sorry, my gardeners are here, so I'm going to close this window.
No problem.
No, you're fine.
All right, that's a little better. Now that's my X-Men poster, and then that is the cover of the X-Men script signed by the whole cast.
That's awesome.
It's also got Mystique's blue fingerprints on it. Rebecca put her fingerprints on it.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
And then up there is a thing sent to me by Tom Rothman, who was the head of the studio, when X2 made 200 million in its first week. I think that's what. Yes, 200 million first week. So,
all right. I guess
we're all very happy about that.
While we're talking about X-Men, I kind of answered this earlier. Since your departure from the X-Men franchise, sort of, what's your feelings on? Obviously, you like Days of Future Past, but what's been your feelings on how they've handled the X-Men universe up to now since your departure?
Oh, I think they lost their way a bit when Bryan Singer and I were no longer there. It's a problem when, I think the first two movies really worked because I was a hardcore fan of X-Men and wanted it to feel like X-Men, particularly the Chris Claremont run of X-Men.
Right.
And Bryan was just a great filmmaker who didn't know anything about comic book movies. He just wanted to make a great movie, and he wouldn't let the studio sort of push him around on some of their goofier ideas. And then once we were gone, they were overthinking it, and they put a lot into it that didn't really work. And sort of based more on their marketing goals and that sort of thing. But then you got a strong voice like Matthew Vaughn, who is amazing, and he came back for First Class, which I enjoyed a lot. And then Bryan came back for Days of Future Past, and I thought that film was spectacular and just
definitely
a great leap forward for comic book movies in general. To apply those time periods, that cast is astounding. I think they've sort of found their way again, and I'm glad it's through Bryan, because he's a brilliant dude.
Now, I don't know if you mind me asking this. Is there any reason you're no longer involved with the X-Men movies, or?
Well, yeah, there's a few reasons. Well, Bryan and I had a bit of a falling out after X-Men 2, and the studio had a falling out with Bryan after X-Men 2. Everybody was falling out of everywhere else, and so Bryan and I have since patched it up, and I love him to death, and I owe him this side of my career, and I'm very grateful. But we haven't talked about working together again. I mean, I would certainly love to do another X-Men movie, but I also would never chase Bryan down about it, because he already did so much for me that
right.
It's like if he ever needed me on the films or felt like he wanted me involved, I would do it. But beyond that, I'm not going to chase it down.
Okay, that's
all right.
That's the inside scoop.
Nice. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're getting down to the wire. About time to wrap things up. Very last thing. It was you mentioned it, blowing the internet up. People have seen this particular tweet from you yesterday. It's been retweeted, favorited like crazy. And it reads, "Colonel, what's the meaning of this? Why am I back in this booth? Hashtag Snake Mystery @for Paul Eiding." We heard this. We read a couple of different things. One of the things you already confirmed that it wasn't. We also heard that it could have been from a charity event that you attended.
No. No. I wanted to make sure, because people got very excited, and which is great, and I appreciate that. It is not a new Metal Gear game, and it is not, as many people have suspected, a Konami Metal Gear Pachinko setup. But I was in the booth, given a script. Paul Eiding and I played the Colonel and Snake yesterday for a little thing, which I'm very happy about, but is not like some earth-changing thing. So I was sort of teasing it out there because it was kind of cool to be back in the booth recording Snake again, particularly with Paul. But people shouldn't get too excited about the return of Metal Gear Solid or anything like that.
Can you give us? I obviously can't tell us what it is, but is there a sort of time frame you can give us for when we'll find out?
I think you'll find out fairly soon, in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Should reveal itself.
All right, I'll take that.
And then everybody will be mad at me. They'll be like, "Why are you teasing this out?" But It's fun to watch the internet get excited.
All right, just so we don't forget to ask this one, is there anything you want to say to all your Snake fans?
Or just fans in general.
Or fans, yes.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for sticking with me and putting up with all my nonsense, and I love you people to death. Like, so many people have terrible times on the internet and have so many trolls and obnoxious, vitriolic people, and I just don't get a lot of that. I get a huge amount of love and appreciation, and and being a geek myself, I get it, and I love it, and I appreciate it. So thank you to all of the people out there who enjoy what I do, and thank you guys for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
Oh, of course.
It is an absolute pleasure having you here, and thanks to Sarah for getting us set up.
Yeah, Sarah in my office.
In the call together, that was great. And
she works out all our technical issues, and so I can just sit there and be Snake.
Just be Snake, right? And okay, so before we close, once again, I just want to say thank you very much. It's amazing to be able to speak to you. Not trying to kiss up to you or anything, but you're an idol of mine. Always will be. And
thank you, much appreciated.
Love it.
See that again and see what happens. Yeah, that's the voice I use when I'm nose to nose with some drunk in a bar. Happens to sound like Snake, but it's really just pissed off Dave.
Nice.
For me, do this for me, please. Just form a sentence and use my name in the Snake voice. Anything, I don't care.
Colonel, what's Mike Taylor doing here? What the hell?
Okay, I don't want to be selfish, but I guess that made me a little jealous. Can I?
Yeah. What's your last name, Jonathan?
Jonathan Walker.
Jonathan Walker. My God.
Okay.
I haven't seen a Walker that ugly since Peace Walker.
Oh.
I'm sorry. You're a very attractive man. I made it personal by that. I just thought it was good.
That made my life. Okay.
All right. Okay. So, and once again, before we close, I want to give another thanks to my friend Miles for doing the technical work behind the stream and getting this recorded for us.
Can you see him now?
Nope.
Okay. Well, his avatar has become the 1970s era Batman toy with a little loopy thing over its face. So that's been going on for about half an hour.
Okay, great. And he runs hminds.net. It's Hearts and Minds. It's learning software, e-learning, audio, video. It's a work in progress, but I'd like everybody else to keep a lookout for that as well. So,
indeed,
David, thank you once again.
My pleasure.
I would love to have you again another day. Not too soon, because I know you've got a lot of, you're very busy. And
yeah, well, when I've got some of those things coming out, then I can finally talk about them. Always happy to come back.
Awesome. Perfect.
All right, thank you.
All right.
You want to say before we go?
Again, I want to say thank you. It's just incredible that you even respond to your fans. I know there's many other people who wouldn't even bother. So I personally want to say thank you for giving us another interview. It's been
my pleasure. Look, it's you guys do good work and you're great supporters. I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
All right, and then with that, I think we're done here.
Until next time.
All right.